And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
Monday morning showing a lot of IFR coming right into the southwest coast, especially here across the Yukon-Kuskokwim Delta and up the Yukon River a ways there. Marginal VFR into Norton Sound across St. Lawrence Island. Marginal VFR for the Alaska Peninsula. Kodiak Island, all of the Aleutians with some IFR swinging into Shimei and Attu. Areas of IFR here, as you can see, along the Alaska Range and the North Gulf Coast. And for the afternoon, a little bit more in the way of IFR here for the North Gulf Coast, and now down along the north coast of the Panhandle, northward across the eastern Copper River Basin to the Alaska Range, but improving here over south central Alaska throughout the afternoon, especially here to the west, becoming VFR for the Alaska Range, all the way out to the eastern Yukon Delta, marginal VFR down toward Bristol Bay, Alaska Peninsula, Kodiak Island, and the Aleutians with the IFR here over the northern Bering Sea, extending southwestward there into the west central Aleutian chain. And then for the Tuesday morning outlook here, we've got another big batch of IFR over the Bering Sea coming back inland here across the Yukon-Kuskokwim Delta, down to the Bering Sea side of the Alaska Peninsula, at least right through here. And then marginal VFR from Cold Bay, Perryville on out to Atka, and for Adak westward back into the IFR there. And a little bit of IFR again here over the Alaska Range there and down to the west with marginal VFR, southern Cook Inlet up to Prince William Sound and covering all of the southeast coast. And then for the afternoon, IFR shows up there over toward the eastern Panhandle, up toward Lynn Canal, Glacier Bay, right along the North Gulf Coast Range here into western Prince William Sound, possibly down to Resurrection Bay, and then some areas of VFR, Susitna Valley, northern Cook Inlet, and kind of a scattered mix here across much of southern Alaska, becoming mostly VFR up to the north. And now this area of IFR really breaking up there just off the southwest coast, but covering St. Lawrence Island, and some more solid area of IFR pushing into the southwest Bering Sea, almost as far east as Adak. And for the passes up to the north, Anaktuvuk and Adigan, both looking pretty good tomorrow. VFR forecast for both passes. Lake Clark and Merrill, again, improving. Lower conditions early on, better in the afternoon, becoming VFR. Into the evening, same forecast for rainy. Windy, pretty marginal day coming up for Monday, as well as Isabel, Mentasta, even lower conditions there with IFR in the forecast. And for Tanita, marginal VFR. Portage, IFR becoming marginal, so some improvement there. IFR probably just early in the morning, and then marginal VFR through the afternoon, possibly becoming IFR late in the afternoon, but call it marginal for at this point in time. Chilkoot and White, rather marginal. Freezing levels here at the surface all the way up into the Yukon River there, the lower Yukon River Valley into Norton Sound. 2,000 feet, though, farther to the south, still off the coast, off the North Gulf Coast, and right along the coast of the Panhandle, but up into Bristol Bay. And for icing, a couple areas here over the interior. This one over the, or along the eastern North Gulf Coast in the northern Panhandle could see some considerable moderate icing there. Another band here from Kamishak Bay across the southern Kuskokwim Valley, right on up in towards St. Lawrence Island. And then another area of heavier icing here, staying mostly south of the Aleutians. And for the jet stream, northwest winds up to 125, in some cases 140 knots there over the Aleutian chain. Much lighter up to the north here with that low center west of Nunivak Island. West-southwest flow across the Gulf of Alaska, Kodiak Island at about 70 knots. And for 9,000 feet here, west winds 30 knots over areas of the southeast coast. Otherwise, southwest 40 knots, 40 to 50 knot winds here blowing across the Alaska Peninsula, and 40 knots out of the west over the southeast Bering Sea. But the stronger winds here, Adak and Atka, west-northwest, 55 knots, and falling back to about 40 knots or less towards Shimei. High pressure making for light wind conditions over the central and northern interior, as well as the northern Bering Sea into the Arctic Ocean. 3,000 feet, pretty light winds here. Could see east-southeasterlies, maybe up to 35 knots there for the central Arctic coast, portions of the North Slope. Otherwise, westerlies, 30 to 35 knots out over the southeastern Bering Sea. And the strongest winds here south of the Aleutians, leaving a pretty light wind day at 3,000 feet for much of the Aleutian chain. And a little breezy, but not too bad there for Kodiak Island. Pretty light over the interior on down the southeast coast. So not much to look at turbulence-wise for tomorrow. Could be some light to isolated moderate turbulence there for the western Arctic coast, and also from Kodiak Island to the Alaska Peninsula, including possibly Unalaska Island.